Well, hey girl.
Hi friend, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well. How are you? I'm finally rehydrated from the bar crawl weekend for my birthday and finally getting back on normal schedule, especially with the time change. That did not
Oh,
help
the time
either.
change is fucking brutal.
Woke up today and it was still dark out and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Oh yeah, I don't sleep, so I don't know what that's like. I'm just already awake when the sun is coming up.
Oh,
But yeah, for those
fuck
of you
that.
who are not in Chicago or from here, Chicago is the best St. Patrick's Day in the country.
It was quite the experience. I honestly don't think I will ever do that
Yeah.
again. It was a long fucking, I think it was like a 17-hour day for
Jeez.
us. And it was just like nonstop drinking, which was fine. I mean, that's what I wanted anyways. But I didn't get blackout. Like, thankfully, nothing like crazy happened. There were no fights or anything. One of the girls would not stop crying over her fucking ex, which was kind of annoying. And I know she's listening, but we all told you it was annoying. We told you it was annoying.
It's okay, girl. That's why I did not go out on St. Patrick's Day, because that would have been me. Anyway, enough banter. So we don't get yelled at like all the other podcasts that we've been talking about today. So you might be a little confused as to why we're dropping in your feed a week early.
Yeah.
So we have a little surprise, I guess. Oh shit, I just threw my pen at the computer. I'm gonna put that down. This is, I guess, like a complimentary episode to our episodes about Caylee Anthony.
This is like the warm cookie you get when you check into the hotel. This is that.
Ooh, that's a good way to put it. I've never stayed at a Four Seasons, but I hear their chocolate chip cookies are delicious. So yeah, so this is our bonus episode where we're going to talk specifically about Caylee's Law. So part of the reason why we wanted to do this is because a lot of the laws in the United States especially are reactionary. So once something happens, especially something as tragic and sort of, all, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it makes everybody really be affected by it. We get law changes, which is both good and bad.
Yeah.
At least there's change, but obviously we always wish that these things could be prevented.
Right. And we always have to have some sort of precedent too in the court of law also.
For sure. We don't just get to decide things for no reason. So yeah, so this is our companion episode for Caylee's Law. After Caylee's body was found, several legislators were moved to change the laws to prevent anything like this from happening again. One of the main criticisms of the Casey Anthony trial was that she was not held accountable for neglecting to report Caylee missing for 31 days. And so this was a way to hopefully prevent that from happening again. The main objective of these laws that we are calling Caylee's Law. So it's not just a specific singular law. It's actually like a grouping of laws because we had to cover a lot of different things. The main objective of these laws was to force guardians of young children to report a missing child sooner, thus giving law enforcement a greater chance of recovering the child ASAP and hopefully alive. There were 4 states that introduced these laws initially. Florida, Oklahoma, New York, and West Virginia were the first 4. This all started because after Casey, here we go, fucking again, I can't keep the name straight. This all happened because after Casey was acquitted, a woman named Michelle Crowder from Durant, Oklahoma, created a petition on change.org that collected over 300,000 signatures in 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was petitioning for a federal law making it a federal offense for a guardian to not notify police of a missing child within 24 hours. Also making it a felony for a guardian to not report the death of a child within 1 hour.
Oh, wow.
So
within 1 hour?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So if your child, drowned or was accident, was sick and died in their sleep for some reason, whatever,
Mhm.
you were required within 1 hour of knowing about the death to report
Wow.
it to police.
Hmm.
So that way, um, nobody can cover up things, I
Right.
guess, as
Yeah.
much. George Anthony was a huge supporter of this law,
Okay.
which was very interesting to me because in light of our last two episodes, we talked a lot about the possibility of George having something to do with
Mhm.
covering it up and being sort of involved in various ways,
Mhm.
I guess is the best way to say it. So he was very outspoken about his support for this. He actually is quoted in the Washington Post as saying, quote, Caylee's law will be groundbreaking and will be up there assisting the Adam Walsh Act, the
Mm.
Lunsford Act, Amber Alert, and many others that are necessary for our children, close quote.
Wow.
So, which I totally agree. All of
Yeah.
those acts are very important, and we will go into all of those as we cover those, you know, uh,
Tragedies.
yeah, those other cases that are
Mhm.
relevant to each specific law. Um, that all of these things are important for protecting children. And
Mhm.
so, but I just thought it was so bizarre that if he did have anything to do
Right.
with, because also with double jeopardy, Casey can never be
Mhm.
tried again for any of these crimes, but there were no charges brought against George.
Right.
So if he had anything to do with this, he's
He's still
still,
free reign.
yeah. And so for him to be like drawing attention to himself
Wow.
after, I thought that was really bold if he does have anything to do with
Yeah.
it. So it also created a little more doubt for me. But
And
anyway,
what year was this bill or this law introduced?
so the petition went up on 2011, like right
Okay.
after she was acquitted. It was
Okay.
literally like the day that she was acquitted,
Uh-huh.
this
Change.org.
change.org petition went up.
Michelle wasted no fucking time.
No, she did not. She was
Love
very
it.
upset.
Love it.
Um, and I believe that article in the Washington Post came out definitely within a year. I
Mhm.
want to say it was like, I think that article came out in like early 2012,
Okay.
but I'm not 100%. But still, it was like very recent
Mhm.
within the case being over. And then he also said, quote, if I have to stand up on top of the Capitol building, I will, close quote.
Hmm. Flash forward to 2022 or 2021 when that'll become a thing.
Are you talking about January 6th?
Yes.
Oh God, I try to block that out of my
I
mind.
know. I know.
So while there were a lot of people with very outspoken support for the potential for these laws to be made,
Mhm.
there were also a lot of critics. So folks on Reddit railed against the law, saying that parents who are not in their right mind could be convicted of committing a crime simply because they were unaware that they were breaking a law. And the
Hmm.
beginning of the 24-hour clock seems to be up for a lot of debate.
Mhm.
So say your child does drown, that would be for the 1 hour if
Mhm.
your child drowns. But if your child drowns, it's like, really, you have 59 minutes and 59 seconds
Right.
now to quit your crying to call 911, which,
Right.
like, in some ways I'm like, yeah, you should probably do that anyway. But
Exactly.
also I can understand, if you were asleep and your
Mhm.
child's been dead for several
Right.
hours,
Shit, that's hard.
yeah.
I mean, how does that, um, it, I guess, play against like SIDS, like sudden infant death syndrome? Like, does that 1 hour rule apply, or I mean,
Yeah,
something so
so
sudden. I don't know. Like, I mean, drowning is sudden too, but I also feel like it takes a while
yeah.
for that to take over your lungs and to shut down your brain and everything.
Yeah, especially if it's like that secondary drowning or whatever
Yeah.
they call it, where like the kid sucks in the water, but then they don't actually die from it
Uh
until
huh.
like later.
Oof.
I know, which is so terrible. But yeah, so that's one of the biggest criticisms of it. There's a Time magazine article written by Maya Schlavatsitz.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm saying that right. There's a lot of Z's in that name. In 2011, she says, quote, such legislation introduced in the wake of shocking crimes is notorious for having unintended negative consequences as embodied in the law school cliche, hard cases make bad law, close quote.
Mm.
Which I do understand that reactionary things can be ill-advised.
Yeah.
But we'll get into some of that in a little bit.
Okay.
One of the sort of criticisms that one of the, I guess, exceptions that she brings up is natural disasters or when
Mm.
children die in a hospital setting.
Hmm.
So if your child dies as a result of a tornado ripping your house apart,
Mm-hmm.
like, when are you responsible
Right.
for
Oh,
that?
shit.
And if you have a tornado that ravages your house, how you may not even be able to call.
Right. Exactly.
And then do you get arrested for that?
Ooh.
Yeah. So I I totally understand the criticisms.
Yeah. Me
But
too.
that's why bills are not just one person saying, "Hey, I think we should do this."
Mm-hmm.
They go through a writing
Yeah.
process and everything. So, she also mentions that thousands of useless missing teen reports taking up time that could be used to solve actual cases. That's a quote from her article.
Mm.
That set my skin on fire
That's harsh.
because how many times in all kinds of different cases
Mm-hmm.
have we heard the police tell a parent, oh, they're probably a runaway.
Yeah.
And the parents are like, I'm telling you she's not a runaway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you she wouldn't do this. Go find
Right.
her. And the police are still like, yeah, maybe it's just a teenage thing. So the fact that she called them useless missing teen reports, it's like,
Yeah.
if anybody's concerned enough to report them missing, it's not useless.
Right.
Take them
And I hope
serious.
that it doesn't
Like,
ever fucking happen to her to where she has to live through something like that.
I know. Yeah, this article was 12 years ago, so
Oh. It's a
it would be
strong.
interesting
Yeah.
to see if something has happened.
Yeah. It's a strong choice of words.
Yeah. In summation, her entire piece was that the laws need to be written super carefully so that we don't add to the incarceration epidemic
Mm.
by locking up nonviolent criminals because somehow their cases fall under the same laws, which I
Mm.
do
I
totally
agree with
agree
that.
with.
Yeah.
Yes. And, but at the same time, parents need to be held accountable for not taking care of their kids, right? Like, this
100%.
falls under the category of neglect,
Yeah.
but we can't just have like a neglect law.
Right.
We have to come up with specifics.
Right.
So I think that this is a worthwhile law to come up with, and
Yeah.
it was passed in some places.
Great.
Another issue / solution that people were concerned about was that this law relies on a prosecutor to determine whether or not the guardian was actually trying to commit a crime.
Mm.
I think that's a really, that's kind of a slippery slope argument
Yeah.
of you are relying on prosecutors, which on one hand you're like, well, we should be relying on prosecutors. We're
Right.
relying on prosecutors technically in every case because it is up to them whether or not they want to pursue a case.
Mm-hmm.
It is also up to the prosecutors to come up with the plea bargains
Yeah.
if they are going to go that route, which puts sort of like a weight on crimes
Mm-hmm.
in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
So we are already kind of relying on prosecutors.
Right.
But also at the same time, if we have this law and we you press charges with it against somebody, then it still goes to a jury, which is like the whole crux of our judicial system, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm very
I don't
surprised
know.
it's in the hands of a prosecutor and not going immediately to like a bench trial to where actual judges of a circuit can make that call. I feel like that's just a lot of leeway to give to one prosecutor.
Well, I guess like you have to give the decision to the prosecutor if they're even going to let it advance to a trial. So
Okay.
like if they're, if the prosecutor just doesn't even press charges,
Yeah.
then you don't even get to that trial process.
Hmm.
I know, it's so complex.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I wanted to like look into these laws, because there is a lot that goes into making a law like this. One of the other things that people mentioned for sort of like another issue is that a parent or guardian could be notifying like other family members or religious persons before notifying the police. And if that eats up part of your clock, then are you still criminally liable?
Hmm.
So I have mixed feelings about that. I do agree with notifying family first in a lot of cases, because you don't want family members to find out through other,
Channels.
other
Mm-hmm.
channels that are not as good, which
Mm-hmm.
I have it's not a funny story, but it is kind of funny. So
Okay.
my grandfather had dementia really bad. That's
Mm-hmm.
how he died. And it's been several years, so I can look back on this now and
Mm-hmm.
laugh. He was like the first really close person in my life that I ever lost.
Mm-hmm.
And he died my senior year of college.
Oh.
And I played softball in college. Oh, actually, it was my junior year of college, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I played softball in college, which
Mm-hmm.
but for the listeners,
Mm-hmm.
played softball in college, and he died on like the afternoon of a game that I
Oh.
had, and it was an away game. And my coach had a really strict rule that we weren't allowed to, like, our phones were not allowed to come off the bus when
Mm-hmm.
we were playing, or like
Huh.
out of the locker room if we were at home. And also, once we were back on the bus, we weren't really supposed to look at our phones.
Huh.
And I decided to look at my phone anyway because I was really mad at her for some reason, and which was like all the time in college. We did not get along. But I looked at my phone and my sister had texted me, "Are you coming home for Grandpa's funeral?"
Oh
No one
shit.
had told me yet that he died.
So that was, oh my god.
That's how I
Oh my
found out that my grandfather
god.
died. I was so
Oh
mad
my
at her for like
god.
6 months. Like, she just like didn't even think about
Yeah.
it.
Oh
And like the
shit.
whole reason she was asking me is because I was like 1,100 miles from
Yeah.
home. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
for me to go home for anything is a big deal, and especially like a last minute thing like a funeral.
Oh my god.
Yeah, she just had no idea that like it was game day. I didn't even know that he had been put in hospice. Like, he had
Oh
been put in
shit.
hospice like 3 days before,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know because it was like the middle of season and school
Yeah.
and everything, and my
Yeah.
mom was just like, and I was very close with my grandfather. So my mom just like didn't tell me because she didn't want to like make things harder on
Yeah.
me. And so I have no fucking, I mean, he obviously with dementia, it's
Mm-hmm.
a long process. I
Yes.
knew for a long time that it was coming, but yeah, that
Oh my
was how.
god.
So you don't want somebody in a family to find out that a child has
Yeah.
died, like I found out that
Right.
my grandfather died, is what I'm getting
Uh-huh.
to. So,
Damn it.
problem with this law. Anyway, back to seriousness. So, as the Caylee Anthony case took place in Florida, we're going to focus on their version of the law.
Mhm.
By now in 2023, a lot of states have some form of this law. It might be all of them, but I couldn't find like like an actual statistic on that, on how
Okay.
many states it was. So it could be all of them that have some form of this law, but the things that vary state to state are the age of the person,
Mm.
like to determine if they're below that age, then it has to fall within this timeline,
Mm-hmm.
and then what the timeline is. So like some states it's 24 hours, some states it's 48 hours, things like
Okay.
that. In Florida, the law was drafted by a Republican representative, Bill Hager, and he represented like the Boca Raton area,
Mm-hmm.
and then which is like super ritzy. That's like one of the
Mm.
richest parts of Florida.
Okay.
That's also where Florida Atlantic University is. And then it was co-sponsored by another Republican representative, Fred Costello from Ormond Beach, which is very close to where I'm from. So Bill Hager received his Juris Doctorate, which is what you get when you're a lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
from the University of Illinois.
Oh.
I can never say it right. I think it's the Illini.
Illini?
Illini. There we
Illini.
go. Can you tell I'm not from here? So yeah, so go fighting Illini. That's where he got his JD
Okay.
from. And then he moved to Florida in 1990. He was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in 2010. Even though he was a Republican,
Mm-hmm.
this is a prime example of why I hate our two-party system.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he was a Republican, and that area, super conservative because it is so rich,
Okay.
like sickeningly rich. So I think he had to run as a Republican in order to be like elected there. But in all
Okay.
honesty, he wasn't really a Republican.
Okay.
Because he sought to put bills forward that raise the age related to tobacco products.
Uh-huh.
He also worked really hard on a bill preventing health insurance companies from retroactively denying claims, which is a really good thing. A
Yeah.
lot of his bills that he also sponsored were killed before they were passed because they were like too
Mm-hmm.
closely related to something else, or another law was
Mm.
passed that was sort of like contradictory in some way. But the few I peeked in on, he was pretty progressive. So
Interesting.
he wasn't really a Republican.
Hmm.
He unfortunately died on October 13th, 2021, but he was
Mm.
elderly. He was like 76, I think, when he
Oh,
died.
okay.
So I'm a fan of his then that he sponsored this law.
Yeah.
The way he wrote the law was that it would be a felony if you did not report the death of a child or the location of their body within 2 hours of learning of the child's death.
Okay.
So for Florida, it was 2 hours, and this was for anyone under the age of 16.
Okay.
There was an amendment, like, because bills go through, a
Mm-hmm.
process of writing on them. So there was an amendment to the original bill that made it so that you were only able to be charged if you lied to the officer during the investigation and something happened to a child who was under the age of 16. There was also a part of the law that said that you had to report a child missing within 24 hours, which was kind of the part that mostly related to Casey's case,
Mm-hmm.
because technically, if we believe anything that she said, she did not
Mm-hmm.
know that Caylee was dead at
Right.
the time, but she still would have fallen under this law in the case that she did not report her missing
Right.
within 24 hours. Then there was an additional part of the bill, an amendment made that said that if you lied to an officer during the investigation and something happened to a child under the age of 16, then you were also able to be charged with this law.
Damn. Well, check and check.
But if something did not happen to the child, if
Uh-huh.
they were returned like unharmed,
Uh-huh.
then the guardian who lied to the police was off totally scot-free.
I don't think that's fair.
I know.
I don't
Maybe it
like
should be like
that.
a lesser charge,
Uh-huh.
but you
There still has
still
to be
should be,
some accountability.
yeah, for lying to the
Fuck
police.
yeah.
That's fucked up.
Ugh.
Don't lie to the police. Also, that
No,
amendment,
ever.
when they added in that it had to be both something happened to the child and you lied, they also lowered that charge from a first-degree felony to a third-degree felony, making it less severe of a charge.
Okay.
So this official law, which was known as House Bill 37, was signed in by Republican Governor Rick Scott, who is now a senator for the state of Florida. He was a terrible governor. On Friday, April 6th, 2012. So it happened pretty fast. Like the change.org petition went up in June of 2011, and then this was signed in April 6th. So
Damn.
not a single person voted nay on any of the votes that were taken for this law. And then it became effective July 1st of 2012. So like almost 4 years to the day after Caylee's death, because she must have died in June, July. I mean, we don't have an official day, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. That's still a pretty paramount
I
thing
know.
to have happened, though. Wow.
Part of the intention for this law, while not being able to be applied after her acquittal, is that in cases like Casey's, there would have been additional charges for her, thus keeping her in jail for longer. Because as we know, she was released immediately after the acquittal. Before this law, there was nothing for Casey to be accused of other than being a bad mother and not reporting Caylee for 31 days. It is a third-degree felony to give false information to a law enforcement officer in the event of a missing child. So Casey's charges at the actual time were a first-degree misdemeanor. Thus, 4 years was the maximum sentence that she could receive. Now that it's a third-degree felony to lie, it carries a penalty of 5 years in jail.
Is that a maximum?
Yes, but for each charge.
Oh.
So if Caylee's law had been passed when Casey was charged, she could have been sentenced to 20 years in prison and a $20,000 fine for all of her lies.
Wow. I would be happy with that. I mean, it's not a full-fledged like justice was served sentence or final decision, but I think I'd be okay with that.
It's better than what she got, obviously.
Yes.
And in the eyes of our justice system, she is not guilty.
Right.
So
That's such a hard pill to swallow still.
I know. So if we are going strictly on what happened in the courtroom, then yeah, 20 years and a $20,000 fine is justice for
Right.
Caylee,
Right.
technically.
Ugh.
I hate it, but it is.
I hate that a lot.
As of February 18th, 2023, the petition on change.org was still active and currently and had at the time 1,313,152 signatures.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, so people
Wow.
really care about this. And yeah, so it's law in Florida. It hasn't really been invoked a whole lot. But as Republicans love to say about laws anyway, it's a deterrent, right? So the
Yes.
idea is that by having this law on the books, it forces parents to follow it, right?
Right.
Even if we're not charging anybody with it,
Mhm.
people are reporting kids missing within 24 hours now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that way, it's a win, even though law is not really a deterrent. Look at the statistics, but
Right.
whatever.
And to go back to the point you made earlier, like I think it is a good path to go down for like considering like people or adults with mental illnesses or people that may not be fully aware of what's going on. Like I think that is fair, but I also feel like it should not be a crutch. I don't want to say it. I don't know. That's might not be the right word, but I feel like that's just it seems too easy.
Yeah. The mental illness part isn't, or the idea that you bring up is an interesting, like thought experiment on this, because nobody else really brought that up in this, that, if you're as a person with severe depression, it's like, if I don't know how I would react in the event of my child dying because I'm not a parent, but
Right.
like, I don't know, it's hard just to brush my teeth some days,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
depression does to you. So it would be hard to, maybe you send your kid off with somebody for a day or two because you're struggling and you don't even really know that they're missing.
Shit. I feel like there are some gray areas, absolutely, like especially when you take that aspect of it alone into consideration. But I mean, there's fucking gray areas with everything. I'm glad a law like this or a bill like this has passed and exists. I feel like there's no reason for every state not to have this in place, especially if we're all about the fucking future and shaping and kind of molding kids, I guess. I feel like this is something that should be in play everywhere.
Yeah, it is interesting to think that, like, if what Republicans are truly after is protecting children,
Right.
but then some of them were fighting this law, in the more so in like the media, not necessarily because nobody voted no on it, but that idea of you care about kids until they're actually alive. Interesting to think about that in retrospect, because it has been, almost 11 years since this bill was passed. So
Shit. I get it, but it sucks. And it sucks that it has to happen like this. But I mean, I guess that's the way the fucking world
Cookie
works.
crumbles.
Cookie crumbles, yeah. That was very interesting, though. I like that we did this. I like that it's further enhancing the awareness and the greater causes that, I mean, have come from such a terrible, terrible thing happening. But I mean, at least hopefully, I mean, look at the fucking Amber Alert. Look at how many lives that has changed or saved, and how many courses it's changed also. So I'm thankful things like this exist, but it sucks that it has to get that far.
Yeah.
For something like that to come about.
For sure. Another thing that this made me think of is that people are always saying, especially when it comes to true crime podcasts, that it sometimes feels as though the host of true crime podcasts are victim blaming because they're constantly saying things like lock your door, stay out of the forest, all these different things that we say fresh air is for dead people. That's the morbid thing. Be weird, be rude, stay alive. That's the crime junkie thing.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that especially when you're crime junkie or morbid and you have all these fucking listeners, you have hundreds of thousands of potential victims listening to your podcast. We can say all we want, stop murdering people.
Right.
I mean, TCO says it all the time, put us out of a job. Yep. That's like their biggest wish.
Exactly.
But the one murderer that's listening to that might hear, like the one potential murderer might be listening to that, but the hundreds of thousands of potential victims that are listening to it, that we can make a difference with you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's the same thing with this, right? That even though only one person has done this so far, there are probably dozens of potential other cases in which this has in some way affected the outcome of that case, had this law not been on the books. So,
well, and just to to go back to, I mean, if you follow us on Instagram, which you should at Your Next Pod, to go back to like the podcaster and her husband who were just killed last week over in Redmond, Washington, because the host, the female host, I forget what her name is.
Did they release it? I heard that they hadn't. The last time I saw, they hadn't released it yet.
There was one article, I forget who it was from, where they did release the name, but it was also like, her name was Zohreh, Zohreh. Last name is Sadeghi, Sadeghi.
That's a name.
It's quite a name, yes. She was 33 years old, but she was killed by a stalker who listened to her podcast for umpteen years, however long it was around. And like, we have to draw that fucking line somewhere, but also like, what chain reaction is this going to cause? Like, what protection is there going to be? You know, like, what if this had happened while she was on tour or she was doing a show, and like it puts so many other lives at risk? But like, fuck, guys, like, take a fucking beat, but also like, I don't know. I think we're all here just for the advocacy part of true crime. Like, we're trying to progress as much as we can, but we're also trying to raise and enhance the awareness. Like Casey's Law, like, people might not know Caylee's Law. People might not know that something like this exists because it may not be as mainstream as the Amber Alert or what happened to Adam Walsh's family. I don't know where I was going with that.
Well, I have a few other things that I found out in the like process of researching this, a few other things about just like that would have gone in the other episodes had we come across them. Okay. Firstly, Lee, Casey's brother, married somebody named Mallory, and they have a son together. I have really mixed feelings about that. Yes. Another thing I found out, George and Cindy foreclosed on their house. So when Casey went there in the Peacock documentary and was like, that house and blah, 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 they don't live there anymore.
Holy shit. And
then lastly, and this is what I would like to end the episode on, because this is what we are here about. If Caylee was alive today, she would be 17 years old.
Oh.
No, that makes me really sad.
That makes me very sad. Yeah. Who knows what the hell she could have done for the world. Oh, that's so hard. That was sad.
Well,
that was a sad ending. I mean,
I know.
I don't want to say it puts hope out there, but I don't know what to follow that up with. But poor Caylee.
There might be some other little girl that's alive today because her parents reported her missing within 24 hours.
Exactly.
That is now 17 years old. So who knows?
Well, this was fun. I like that we got the opportunity. I mean, we have any opportunity that we want to do on this show, but I'm glad we both reached the consensus of actually doing this, because I think it is highly informative, and it also just creates a channel for a greater conversation to be had. But I also I like that we're going to start doing this. It's important and it matters, big picture.
For sure. And not every case has a law that you know is attached to it, which is in some ways good, because then it means that there's not as many people coming up with creative fucked up things to do to other people. But for anything that we do come across that is relevant to a case that we have covered, we're going to try and do these. So let us know, especially send us an email about what you thought about this episode, any feedback that you have. This is obviously a new thing. We don't really have anything that we're modeling this off of or anything, so all feedback is loved and welcomed at yournextpod@gmail.com,
as well as like in the Apple reviews, podcast
yes,
reviews.
Please,
super helpful there, you guys.
Yes, we would love a review, and we will read out once we start getting some reviews. We will read them out on the pod. So if you want to shout out, leave it in the reviews. Otherwise, we will see you next week for Olaf Palme, my birthday gift to Emilio.
Yay!
So
this has been actually a really good birthday.
Oh, I'm so glad. I love that.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay.
Oh wait, where can they find you on Instagram?
Oh, I'm at...
We haven't done that in a while.
Oh, whoops. Clearly I don't pay attention. I'm at Brooke Bovier on Instagram, Twitter, all the things. I don't use much of them, but I'm there.
I'm on Instagram at Emilio R. Ybarra. That's the letter R in between. What's our tagline?
Beware, you're next.
Ooh, I love the way you say it too. The break and like in the silence. Oh, it's great. Yeah, well, I guess we'll see you guys in a few weeks.
Next week.
Oh yeah, we're doing it back to back. Yeah, that's right.
This will be our first
Mini-sode.
bonus, so it'll be in there extra.
Yeah.
More frequent.
Okay, that was fun. Bye.